Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the Kreeger cast. I'm your host, Patrick Kreeger, and I'm joined once again by Matt.
What's going on?
We do the same intro each and every time. So, we're working our way through the Meg-a-Shark collection. And the movie we just watched was Shark in Venice, which I kept misattributing as Shark Attack in Venice or Sharks in Venice. But it is indeed just Shark in Venice.
There were multiple sharks in Venice, though.
There were multiple sharks in Venice. Shark in Venice is an 88-minute film brought to you in color, rated R for violence and some language. Now, that's not exactly true. There were multiple languages in this film, including Latin, Italian, and English. So, some language. Let's read a couple plot synopsis, shall we?
All right.
David must face the vicious killer sharks that are protecting a long-lost fortune of the Medici, or the mafia will kill his girlfriend. Starring discount John Travolta, named Stephen Baldwin.
There it is.
And Vanessa Johnson. And according to IMDb, their description, the seemingly tranquil waterways of Venice are terrorized by the perfect killing machine. In search of his father, who mysteriously disappeared in diving in the city, David stumbles across the cryptic trail leading to the long-lost fortune of the Medici as an unwitting pawn in a mafia plot to recover the treasure. David's girlfriend...
Jesus, come on, English!
David's girlfriend is kidnapped at gunpoint, plunging him into a desperate race against time. If there's any hope of saving her, he must enter the deadly waters. Can David outgun the mafia assassins and survive the voracious sharks lying beneath the surface, or will he succumb to the same fate as his father? This film came out in 2008, just so you know, and has a 2.5 out of 10 on IMDb.
It's not that bad as far as things go.
So let's start with this.
Yes.
Watch or don't watch?
Don't watch, for me.
Okay.
And here's why. As opposed to the film we watched last night,
Toxic Shark.
This was underwhelming. It was, I suppose a good movie to throw on, in the background if you just want weird sounds coming out of your TV while you perform some task. But, it doesn't really provide anything. The acting is just atrocious. And
there was acting in this?
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't aesthetically arousing. There wasn't anything that really jumped out at you, although there were a lot of shots of Venice that I had never seen.
True.
So
I'm actually going to add a third category between watch and don't watch, which is watch with friends or watch at a party.
All right.
Because I would not recommend watching this alone. I don't think it's that interesting.
Definitely not.
But I also think it's worth watching. I think you could watch it in a group. So now our categories are don't watch, watch, and watch with friends. This is definitely a watch with friends from me.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I still vote don't waste your time.
Okay.
But I could totally see, watch with friends. You could totally make a drinking game out of this.
I like how that's just your generic go-to.
I mean, with these types of movies, I feel like there's got to be some sort of silver lining that we're watching them. We're creating or finding a list of movies that you can go back and look. Oh, okay, yeah, Matt said you can have a drinking game to this. Let's go ahead and do that. This is for the people. I'm trying to provide a service to somebody.
to all of our viewer.
Every viewer, all viewer, the same viewer.
Well, anyway, this film started off pretty terribly. Our first shark attack takes place against 3 divers and consists entirely of B-roll of just sharks, attacking like chum.
Yeah.
And when you see that, you're like, oh God, this is one of those movies where we're never going to see the shark. We're never going to see the shark attacks. And this is just going to be boring and awful and plod on and on and on. And after about like the 20-minute mark, it started picking up and it got a hell of a lot better, at least in my opinion.
Nothing to add.
Okay, so the film starts off with that shark attack of which we spoke, with the pretty poorly edited and poorly shot shark attack.
Yes.
With facial hair Mick aviators.
Oh, this guy, yeah.
The head of the mafia in Venice.
Yep.
And we watch him for a little while do their thing, and, you know, this guy gets eaten. And then we cut to a school, and single-handedly the best scene of any movie ever, Academy Award-winning, takes place, where our protagonist, Discount John Travolta, goes and talks with, like, the dean of his school, and it is literally just people reading dialogue to each other. Hello, hi, your father, my father, your father might have died somewhere in Venice. I must go now. And it's stilted, and it's awkward, and it's uncomfortable, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, that is the redeeming part of this movie, is just the atrocity that is the writing.
And then Discount John Travolta talks to his lady friend.
Yeah.
And they say, let's go to Venice now. And just walks off. They never explain it to their classes or anything.
Yeah, he
walk
leaves the class originally to talk to the dean. He's like, all right, guys, review chapter 4. I'll be back in literally a minute. He says, I'll be back in a minute. And walks out and never comes back. The whole movie. Never. The kids could still be in there. Who knows? I mean, I don't know what kind of school this is, but some of them seemed pretty dumb. You know?
Yes. Yes, a lot of them did. So then they get to Venice, and they go to see an autopsy of 2 of the guys that were found that were killed in a boating accident.
Yes, that was the word that the police were saying, you know. And I love it. He goes, judging by these lacerations, this was no boat attack. He didn't say that, but
he said this was no
nature.
propeller.
Yeah, this was no propeller could do this. Judging by the lacerations, this was a shark attack.
They got as close to Jaws as they could without quoting it, which was unfortunate. I would have loved it if someone said this was no boating accident.
This was no boating accident.
But that was actually the closest we got to Jaws. There was no smile, you son of a, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even though the plot was actually probably the most dissimilar to Jaws I've seen in a while for shark films.
Yeah, it's pretty, far off.
No one, except for remember, there are no sharks in Venice.
Yeah, they kept saying, hey, no sharks in Venice. We can't be spreading these rumors.
One more thing. There are no sharks in Venice.
Yeah, always. The police were very adamant about that.
So here we were going, this film is going to be shot terribly, this film is going to be acted terribly, and we're never going to see the shark, based on what we've seen to this point. Then they go to the father's house, and it's been ransacked, and they start going through his effects, and they find a diary or something that starts talking about the lost Medici treasure.
Yeah, but the way they found it, the whole apartment was turned upside down, and then the son knew let me look out this window and pull this rope that's going down into the water. Pull it up. It's a suitcase full of stuff. And the diary. Yeah. Just, I knew this was there. This is a common practice of my father. Just hiding stuff down, out
He's very meticulous.
Oh, yeah, he said that. God.
See, this is one of the benefits of the after actions, is that we're doing it immediately after seeing the film. It's still fresh. We won't remember this film a week from now.
I'm not going to remember it in 20 minutes.
So they pull this up, and there's this police woman shadowing them. And she says, this all sounds like a fairy tale. How do you know this is true? And he says, this woman here is an expert on the medieval.
Yeah.
And then they just take that.
Face value. All right. Okay. Sounds good.
Moving on.
Yep.
So then they have a historical flashback to some sort of Medici castle raid.
Yeah.
And this is when I'm like, okay, maybe this movie's salvageable. Because the effects and such in that flashback were pretty good.
Yeah, they were.
there's a scene where some guy gets his foot lopped off, and it's actually pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this has some legs, as it were.
Oh, my God.
And I was pretty excited about it. And then I thought, okay, we don't actually have to turn this thing off.
Well, we were never going to turn it off.
No, but at that point I was like, okay, I think we might actually have enough stuff to talk about for the episode. So they have their flashback, and they get set up in their diving gear, and they go to the site where the father went missing.
Yes.
At which point, there's blood on the steering wheel of the boat.
Yeah. So they're en route to the dive site, and this suspicious boat driver has just got blood on the steering wheel, and never is explained, never is referred to, never given a second thought.
And we don't know if it was because it was shot later than other scenes, and they just happened to still have blood. I never put two and two together with a boat, but we see the same boats over and over again throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
So he goes diving, and his dive partner gets eaten by sharks, and then we're treated to single-handedly the greatest shark attack sequence I've ever seen in my entire life.
It was pretty good. It was all right.
There's sharks crashing through boats, there's legs being chopped off, and it's all a dream sequence.
Yes, that was the worst part of that. But yeah, I wish it was true, but then also it would have meant our protagonist died. But
yeah, just
but there's a lot of carnage, and it was actually some of it was shot pretty good. There's a lot of that fast camera action where it's like, oh, you can't really tell what's going on. It's just shapes and water and blood. But there were some good parts of that.
It's pretty clear, though, that they had a mechanized shark, like a mechanical shark.
He was real slow chomping.
And I almost want to say, too, that they shot real sharks attacking a dummy.
Yeah, there was a lot of actual footage of real sharks, whether it's eating chum or like attacking some sort of dummy or whatever, what have you. So there was a lot of like good raw footage of that.
Yeah, I do have to say, though, I wish they had just cut the B-roll out of the whole thing, because it seemed like they did actually have good shots of the mechanical shark and good shots of real sharks attacking dummies. I don't understand why they had all the B-roll in there.
Yeah.
Maybe to pad it out. It is only 88 minutes long, so it's not technically a film.
All right.
So, take that, makers of Shark in Venice.
Just a really long video.
Just a really long video. Anyway, we have a few cool things, like eventually the mob does get involved because they find this treasure. And they kidnap the wife. And the scene where they kidnap the wife is hilarious because eventually they get into this boat, and when the boat gets away, it's clearly a completely different boat, and they have an unnecessary dummy shot of just a dummy in the woman's clothing folded up in the back. Literally folded up in the back of the boat.
Yeah. It was bad.
So we have then Discount John Travolta is in his hotel room, and
oh, God, the best part of the film, actually. This was great. So he's just it's nighttime. He was escorted to the apartment because the police were like, we're gonna keep an eye on you. We don't want you. We hear that you're gonna be talking to the mob. You're trying to they're trying to make you work for them. We'll look into your wife or your future wife, fiance, going missing. We'll look into that, but stay at your apartment. So he's like, all right. You get a real nice, shot of him looking out of the window, all just stewing from the anger and confusion that is this whole trip. And then it follows with him sleeping, attempting to sleep. And he's just tossing and turning, and then cue the 80s music.
Yeah, that was a great cut. They just started this beautiful synth music.
Yeah, and then it's like it's cut with the music's cut with like real quick like snapshots of like evildoers, the mob, like locking and loading and getting ready and preparing a zip line to go from one building to another to get into his apartment. And then the needle, that was good. That was a good part. And then So they get into his apartment because the mob is going to kill him because he knows too much and he turned him down. So he apparently hears the mob come in, even though they're very stealthy.
Yeah, they didn't even smash his window. They cut a little hole in it.
Yeah, and then somehow we're in. And apparently, through his tossing and turning, he figured out that someone was breaking in, so he hid in a closet. And as any, good person knows, that you keep a, spare vase in the closet.
Always.
So when, a bad guy or evildoer, comes to kill you, just grab that vase and slap him over the head with it.
Absolutely. And then a chase scene starts. He's got a gun.
Oh, God. Yes. Yes. The longest chase scene of the same set over and over again.
Yeah, they were going down the same alleyway. We couldn't tell really if the alleyway was a set or if they had rented out a alleyway somewhere in Venice, or maybe not even in Venice, and just kept running up and down it. And you can see the same background actors doing different roles throughout the scene. Like, some of them are guest patrons, some of them are people shopping, some of them are store owners. And the best part about it is they're always wearing the same clothing, so it's not even like you go, oh, hey, is that the same guy? No, it's clearly the same guy.
Yeah, it's obvious.
And then there's the wheelie bike guy who just keeps doing menacing wheelies.
Just popping wheelies, jumping over things, just having a good time.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was trying to shoot for with those wheelies. He was aggressively wheeling at our protagonist.
I think he was just trying to get picked up from someone watching the film to be put into another film, a little bit more action-based, because this one is going nowhere, and he knows it. He's got add a little extra spice to the chase scene.
I suppose. At which point our protagonist ends up in the basement of some building that happens to be some guy's workshop, and a fight with tools begins.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really disappoints me is, so Discount John Travolta is sitting behind some stuff, waiting for these attackers to come for him. And he doesn't pick up a saw or hammer or whatnot.
Yeah, it's clearly a woodworking
workshop
essentially, and he doesn't grab anything. He's just hiding behind a wall or something, and he waits for the guy to shoot off his Uzi, and then once he runs empty, he just pops up in a panic, grabs a real long 2x4 and kind of
4x4 actually.
Oh, 4x4, okay, and then kind of pokes him and then drops it.
Yeah, it was completely seriously, you had a few minutes to prepare, and you're going to charge him unarmed rather than at least with a hammer or whatnot.
Yeah, there were many better tools of or fighting implements afoot. So,
and we had this beautiful scene where he's beating this guy and saying, "Where's my wife?" or "Where is she? Where is she? Where is she?" And then eventually the guy says, "Okay, she's here. Where is that?"
Yeah.
And so he has to have explained to him where he goes, "You're already dead." Oh, man. It was good. It was good. So at this point, I want to mention that this film is really, really well shot.
That is the redeeming quality of this film, for sure.
For as bad as the dialogue is, for as non-existent as the acting is, the lighting and the camera work and the cinematography in this film is actually superb, which is hilarious. There's some beautiful crane shots. There's some great slow-mo, and they have this way of making the movie look dark while still being able to see everything. And that is something I find really irking about modern movies, is they don't actually give you enough light to really know what's going on. And basically all the underwater scenes, you have no idea what's going on. But anything that's shot above water when the lighting's involved is really good. And Discount John Travolta actually makes a fairly fun little action hero guy.
Yeah, he's all right.
The Italians sure do love their Berettas.
They exclusively were using Berettas as their sidearm.
which is hilarious.
And M16s as their primary.
Well, for the police.
For the police, yes.
So let's talk about the final scene.
Yes.
They're at the mob headquarters, and he says, "All of your men are dead. I'm the only person that's here." And so the guy surrenders, more or less. At which point, a ton more goons show up.
Yeah, they just start popping up out of, like, barrels and stuff. It's just, hired henchmen, just afoot.
And then the police show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They weren't called.
No, they weren't. And they just kept coming and coming and coming. One dude would, drop down on a zip line, and then another dude, and then another dude, and then there was a helicopter, and then there were dudes on boats, and then
tons of dudes on boats.
Millions of dudes running down the same flight of stairs, and they're just getting down to the warehouse, and then just, kept popping up, and then not one reload occurred.
Really?
Not one.
I didn't pay attention to that.
God.
So anyway.
And no police died.
Yeah, no police died. A few of the bad guys died. A few of the bad guys did, like, backflips. It was actually, the ending fight scene was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
It was amusing.
But the basic plot was some guy wanted the Medici treasure. So he brought in baby sharks, released them into Venice, so that he had guard dogs.
Essentially.
That's what he said.
Oh.
They were guard dogs. So, yes, great white sharks in Venice. So, I think that is about it for Sharks in Venice.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to provide for that film.
I would say this is another one of the decent films for the younger kids because there was no nudity, no
real language.
There wasn't much language.
Bad language.
There was a bit of violence. A lot of blood. Too much
gore.
No, there was a lot of gore, but it was.
You can count blood and water gore.
No, there were chunks of flesh and stuff like that, but they were clearly like fish flesh being fed to sharks.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not a violent. It's not like a very, violent movie for the most part. Like in your traditional sense of like, all right, this dude gets his head cleaved off and there's just blood squirting out, and or like Kill Bill. It ain't like Kill Bill.
It ain't Kill Bill. So we'll be back in a few days with another shark movie from the Meg-a-Shark collection.
Excellent.
Until then, see you out there.